Hello everyone, welcome to the CI Summit FX. Uh, we are into the session 20C with the value chain and development of games ecosystem. We have with us Mr. Nitish Mitterson. He's CEO and founder Nazara Technologies, giving a special address. And with him is Mr. Nina Chaya. He's co-founder and CEO of GoFigital. He will be moderating this. Over to you, Mr. Chaya.
Thank you so much, Karan. Hey, Nitish, good to see you again.
And then
How are you?
very good, yeah.
Good. So, and when CII reached out to me saying, hey, would you be interested in doing a fireside chat with Nitish on the value and ecosystem of gaming? Like, hey, I just need an excuse to catch up with an old friend. I mean, fireside nahi hai chalega, lekin at least it would give us a good time to catch up. And thanks to CII for arranging this. Uh, so the idea was to generally, you have been in gaming for a long time, for 2 decades, and to give the people who would be viewing this a quick background about you. So you come from I have your profile, and you come from a textile business family, but you coded your first game at the age of 7, and since then I think Nazara was one of the early players in the Indian gaming ecosystem. So if you could just tell us about you, about what your experience first as a gamer has been, and then how you have built possibly one of the most successful gaming companies out of India, and how has the journey been?
Sure, Ninad. So, like you mentioned, right, I came from a textile family background, but my father bought me a ZX Spectrum when I was 6 years old, and that became an obsession for me. First, I started playing games, and I started buying books in basic language on how to make games, and that's how I landed up coding games at the age of 7. But thereafter, I was completely hooked to the world of gaming. And, 3 decades later, also, I'm still in the same world, right? I never got out of it.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a journey. But when I started Nazara in 99, 2000, I was in Sydenham College studying, but I also was active in the college lab, computer lab. And I used to see a lot of my friends playing games on the computers or the PCs. And, I just felt that going forward, this could become a business and an industry. That's really how the idea for Nazara started. And we actually then the vision was, can we do something more localized for the local audience as it will grow, which today our prime minister is starting to promote, right?
Sure.
Vocal for local.
Life comes a full circle.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was really the vision, and which is also why we chose a name like Nazara, because we wanted something that was connecting us to the spirit of India, right?
Sure.
And that's how the company started. Probably did not realize I was from an Indian context starting too early. So I think the first decade was more about preservation, experimentation, survival, and all of that, and chasing a dream which was many times like a mirage. You would get to the next year and say, gaming is going to explode the year after next, and then you would get to the next year, and you've been there, right?
Yeah.
And we've all been in it together, and it used to keep getting pushed off. But I think since 2010, 11, I think the mobile phone revolution, especially the low-cost Android phones, really put a quality gaming device in the hand of every Indian in that sense. And I think that's been one of the key driving forces for the industry to actually take off. Obviously, when you look at it from the global perspective, it is just still starting off. From a monetization perspective, we are still very small compared to the $200 billion gaming industry globally. But it's exciting times, and we've been there for a long time. In the last few years, we have diversified as Nazara into many verticals of gaming, trying to cater right from young kids to college goers to different segments, different demographics. And I think we are truly a good diversified gaming platform today, with a lot that we can build on top of what we have already created.
So that's interesting. And like you said, I mean, interestingly, around the time you started Nazara, we Vishal and I had co-founded India Games, and I think even for us, the way we came about with the name India Games was that we wanted to build games for the Indian audience, and I think at that point of time, it was just kind of trying to see how one could scale the business where the whole industry was at a very nascent stage. But yeah, I mean, I've seen the journey of Nazara over the past 2 decades, and starting from at one point, Nazara you would build online games and went into the telco space. You were one of the few leading players in the vast telecom space where you would not only develop and publish your own games, but aggregate games from other partners, including the exclusive deal you had at one point of time with some big players like EA Mobile. To getting into the IP space, I remember collaborating on the Sachin Tendulkar game with you. And then today, where again, you are looking at not just publishing the games on the Play stores and the app stores, but also, like you mentioned, about diversifying. So for somebody who was looking to make an entry in the gaming space today, right? I mean, what would be the 2 or 3 insights that you would give? Because the last 4 5 months, if you've seen, because of COVID, gaming has suddenly been taken a uptick. There's been a lot of traction, a lot of conversations going around gaming, a lot of traffic being generated, a lot of content being consumed. But it's not easy. I mean, and you and me both know that it's not a easy game to be in this space. So as somebody who's built a successful company, what is it that you would advise somebody who's just starting off?
I think from someone entering the gaming business today, you're coming in at a time when the industry is kind of taking off. Unlike us, that we were in the business, before it really took off. You're at that inflection point already, which is a great thing, but also you don't have too much time to learn. You need to move much faster. We probably had a lot of luxury of time to slowly evolve, make a lot of mistakes, learn from our mistakes, and do all of that in the last decade and a half or 2. I think somebody coming in today needs to move faster, so it needs to be a lot more clear in terms of which is the vertical of gaming he's getting into. From an India market perspective today, you can be on the freemium side where you are making games for the app stores. These could be casual games which are ad monetized. They could be games that are a bit more mid-core, which have strong game economy and is powered by in-app purchases. You could be making these games for the Indian market, or you could be an Indian developer who's making this for the Western markets. You could go into the real money gaming side, where there's a lot of stuff happening on competitive gaming. You could get into the esports space. There's a strong overlap happening between gaming and edtech, and that's an interesting space you could get into. Or you could go a little bit. You could have a vision of doing something which will emerge in the next 2-3 years, which could be more around your virtual reality or augmented reality. Which are still not monetizing that strongly, but I think all of us believe it, right? That, for example, VR will change the experience of gaming completely. Absolutely. Over the next few years.
Yes.
Can VR be monetized strongly today? No, but in the future, it's going to be a game changer. So I think there are a lot of areas within the gaming space, each of which has, opportunities and challenges. So I think anybody entering this business has to be very clear which is the vertical he's going to focus on, and how he can differentiate, how he can move fast on it. But like I said, now I think for new entrants, they need to be able to move faster. The good part is that unlike earlier, now I think that there's a lot of recognition coming in terms of the potential of this business also.
Sure.
So it's much easier to get investors, much easier to get angel investors to back you if you have a good idea. So I think getting capital for good ideas will be far easier than what it was earlier as well, and that could enable you to move faster. I think that's my suggestion to anyone coming into the business today.
Mm-hmm. So how easy or how difficult was it so going back, I mean, like what you mentioned about raising money today, and when you first raised money from Sequoia and Westbridge
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah.
I think the initial seed round was around 75 lakhs from family and friends, and then you raised some $5 million somewhere in the 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
To today, where you've raised close to $100 million and are in fact now investing in a lot of gaming companies. So what was the play back then and what's the play now in terms of the core strategy that Nazara has? And you mentioned that you're diversified, and I'll come to that in a bit.
Yeah.
But how it's never an easy thing to raise money, but what's been the journey like for you?
Sure. So, originally when we raised capital from Westbridge or Sequoia, it was Westbridge then, we were not actually out there looking for funds, or we were not actively in the market raising money. We had done this deal with Sachin Tendulkar, the one that you just referred to. And, Sandeep, who was a partner at Westbridge, saw an interview of mine on CNBC and reached out to me to find out more about the company and, raise capital. And at that point of time, I was very naive, I would say. I really didn't even know what VC really was, So I looked it up and how it works, and then we did a few meetings. It still took us a good 6 months to do a deal, but it wasn't like I was actively meeting 20 investors at that point of time and trying to raise capital. So Westbridge had an inbound interest. We engaged for a few months, and the funding happened. Just give me 1 second.
Sure. Is it a son or daughter?
That's my daughter.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries at all. I mean, we would have loved to have her also because she's the upcoming gamer. I mean, we would have loved to have her on this conversation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our investments actually happened because of my kids. I'll speak about it later.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think back then that was the story. I think when we raised the $100 million in 2018, obviously as a company we had evolved a lot more. We had plans to go public, so we got in public-facing investors like India Infoline and Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. And that was also a fairly quick process for us. It wasn't very painful.
Okay.
Again, like I said, for now, I think I see a lot of gaming entrepreneurs because we are also investing in gaming companies. I think the market has evolved and there's a lot of appetite in gaming, and therefore, provided you have some decent either proof of concept or background or really great idea, I think it's not that difficult to raise some capital.
Sure.
Obviously, beyond a point, you have to show your numbers need to add up, right?
Absolutely.
And if a game metrics, engagement metrics are okay, then I think capital in itself is not an issue.
Sure. So, and before this, we discussed about you diversifying, and you invested in quite a few companies across various genres. I mean, right from Nodwin Gaming, which is into esports, to Paperboat Apps, which is into the kids entertainment space, to even Sportskeeda, or even Halaplay, which is into fantasy sports. I mean, how do you kind of gauge which one, and if you have to take your bets on one or two of these, which would be your top 2 or 3 ones, at least in genre? I would not say name the company per se, but from a domain perspective, which are the ones you're looking at?
Yeah. No, so our 3-4 years back, we embarked on a vision of creating a Friends of Nazara network, as we like to call it, from 2-3 perspectives. One is, as Nazara, we wanted to become a gaming platform with a large number of users, who we could cater with all different categories and products, different games, right? So, for example, let's say we have close to 100 million users on a network.
Okay.
The idea was, this 100 million users will have young kids, so can we have products that cater to them?
Right.
This 100 million users will have enough sports fans, so can we have the best cricket game that is out there for them? So the idea was, how can we cater? Some of these will be college students very enthusiastic about esports and sorry, I should not say PUBG, but it's not today, but competitive sports. So the idea was to create kind of cater to all needs of our user. in the user's life cycle, right? Some may be casual users, some may be mid-core users, some may be sports fans, some may want to do fantasy sports.
Sure.
So we pursue that strategy, and we continue to pursue that strategy, is to build a full stack and then look at acquiring companies that have proven themselves in a particular category that we want to fill.
Okay.
And our approach was to do a Friends of Nazara network, which meant that we would acquire majority in these companies, but still let the founding team continue with a sizable stake, let's say 20, 30, 40%,
Mhm.
and let them have 100% control of the business. So they continue running the business completely independently as it was running,
Sure.
how we kind of invested.
Okay.
Our job really is to add value wherever we can, and also cross synergize. So for some examples, one example I'll give you is a World Cricket Championship, which is the most popular cricket game, right? And
Yeah.
Nodwin is the leading esports company. They've come together to collaborate to create virtual cricket esports tournaments.
Wow. Okay.
So that's one example of synergy that we can facilitate on a
Right.
common platform.
Right.
Or Sportskeeda, for example, when we acquired, was focused only on traditional sports.
Okay.
But today they are the fastest growing esports content destination
Mhm.
in India as well as the US.
Wow.
That's another example of adding synergies and kind of pivoting some of these companies. So I think that's the strategy we followed. In terms of areas that we're most excited about, I think we're excited about all the businesses we are in.
Mhm.
But I think the two that really stand out today is the esports space, which is growing at a very fast pace. And this pandemic has really kind of slowed down the real world sports.
Sure.
It kind of brought esports into the forefront and, brought it a bit more mainstream. And therefore, I think esports is very exciting. I think the other place we are very excited about is the gamified edtech space, especially for young kids.
Right.
As a father of two young kids, which are like under 7, 3 and 7, what I realize is you cannot, if you want to deliver any kind of learning to them, it has to be highly gamified and entertaining. Or what I like to call kind of, feed them healthy doses of healthy entertainment.
Sure.
Right. And I think that's a very interesting space because young kids cannot be kept away from digital devices beyond a point.
Absolutely.
It's impossible, right? Even a 2-year-old kid today,
Yes.
you can't keep them away from your digital device. You might, as a parent, while you will constrain it and you will balance it, the idea is whatever they consume should be healthy in nature.
True.
And I think that's a very interesting space because also the engagement levels of those consumers are extremely high, or of those kids is extremely high. Once they like something, they will keep coming back to it again and again and again. Which is why even today on YouTube you will see, right, the biggest the number of views, the record keeps getting set.
Correct.
By a Baby Shark song, right, or a Ryan's Toy Review in the US.
Yeah.
But they keep consuming it again and again and again and again. It's
Sure.
like a song that some you like, you will keep listening to it again and again. That's how kids are. So the engagement and the consumption is very high. The only thing is you want to ensure that you're delivering healthy content to them. But at that age, they are extremely influenced, or whatever they're consuming can influence them significantly. Right? They're absorbing everything that they're seeing.
True.
And therefore, parents want to make sure that whatever they consume is compliant, and which is why a lot of our products, like the Kidopia product, is COPPA compliant, goes through all the family safe filters very strictly. So very interesting space to play. So I think these two are growing very fast for us amongst the other businesses as well. But if you ask me what's really the focus in 2020, I would say the esports and the edtech for young kids, gamified edtech for young kids.
Brilliant, brilliant. And in fact, you mentioned the World Cricket Championship as during when you were talking about Nodwin doing an esports event, and interestingly, that won the Atmanirbhar App Challenge from a gaming perspective. So if you could talk about some of the local IPs you're building, where the PM mentioned that we need to build games which the local audiences can relate to, and you have quite a few IPs, right from Chhota Bheem, Shikari Shambhu to your WCC2 challenge. I mean, what's the roadmap on that?
Yeah. I think with WCC, we have seen the kind of engagement and love the consumers have shown it has been extremely high. You know, they've got over 40 million users playing it a month. Now they're coming out with the latest version, WCC 3, and if you scan social media, there's so much anticipation and excitement for it. So I think what's really super there is that you've been able to create a 100% original IP, which is World Cricket Championship.
Sure.
You know, on a mobile game, it's not a licensed IP based on, you know, dependent on a team or a player, etc. Users recognize it for what it is on its own Steam, and it's a local IP created, you know, out of this company Next Wave in Chennai. They have about 70-80 people focusing just on this product, you know, developing and going really into the depths of it. So I think the point really is, and the learning there is, that if you execute, I mean, local IP is important, but it will only work well if you execute to global standards. So the Indian consumer is well exposed to, you know, the best of the games all from all over the world.
Sure.
And while local IP can have an edge, unless it doesn't deliver global quality and global experience, it will not fly. And I think that's one key learning that we've had. Of course, with the games like Chhota Bheem and all, again, the young kids, we've got, you know, millions of kids playing those games, but they are a lot more casual in nature.
Sure. And like you rightly said, I think local IP matters, but content and the quality of the content really plays a key. And it takes a lot of efforts to build that global quality. And I was on a panel discussion a few weeks ago where Siddharth from Nodwin was a moderator, and we were discussing the same thing, that investors need to kind of look at how to back the right player, because a developer has ideas, but to be able to execute them the way a global IP should be built takes a lot of time and investment. And which is what I'm coming to, that you moved through the value chain from being a developer to being a publisher to now not just being a publisher, but also an investor in a lot of gaming companies. What are the key aspects that you look for when you decide to, or when you're exploring a company, evaluating a company from an investment perspective? What are those 2-3 things that you look for?
So Ninad, you know, we are not a financial investor, and therefore, obviously, the lens we look at first is that how is this investment synergistic to our existing businesses, and also our vision of creating the gaming platform that we want to. And like I said, also, it's a missing piece in our you know, offerings.
Right.
So because for us, all the investments are very strategic in nature and not financial in nature, right? We're not investing to sell.
Correct.
But to build these businesses and build synergies between the various businesses we are in. So obviously, that's the first filter for us.
Right.
Beyond that, we like to see, you know, companies which have got some proof of concept, ideally, that we can scale faster. So let's say we've got 100 million users on our network. What we're really looking for from a strategic investment is, you know, has this product already got good KPIs, at least decent KPIs, showing some promise and can be built upon further, and then taken to our, you know, 100 million users. Those are the kind of businesses we like. We are doing some incubation, so we also do some early stage investments, more backed on either ideas or the teams.
Okay.
But when we go in to take, let's say, majority stakes and all, we like companies that are a bit more kind of mature, not at absolute startup stage.
Okay.
Already have product market fit in that sense.
Right.
And can be accelerated by us by one, investing capital. Second, all the synergy users that we bring to the table, and any other synergies through our businesses. So these are the filters that we look at, that basically by our investment, whether that 1 + 1 coming together becomes 3, 4, 5, or 11.
Sure.
I think that's what we really look at.
So that was interesting, and we spoke about the yesterday of Nazara and the today of Nazara. What's the tomorrow of Nazara? What's coming down the road from a business perspective?
I think in the short term, and when I say short term, I think the next year, so 2020, 2021, I think our focus is to kind of scale up all the current businesses that we are in. I think there's huge growth opportunity. So a lot of the focus is to ensure one, these businesses are capitalized well, and we can scale them fast.
Mhm.
I think we also have our IPO on the table. We hope to go back to the markets, in the next few months, and that's going to take a lot of energy for us
Absolutely.
from our teams, and a lot of effort is going on that front. Uh, I think from a Nazara of the next 3, 4, 5 year perspective, I think we'd like to see how we can evolve more into the upcoming technologies. We haven't invested a lot into, let's say, a VR or AR, or how do we leverage AI. So there's a lot of
Mhm.
more deep tech, new tech that we can integrate
Sure.
into our offerings, which I believe are not that strong today. I
Mhm.
think a lot of our focus will go into that. Besides seeing how can we build this 100 million user base into, let's say, 300, 400, 500 million users in the
True.
next 2, 3 years. I think that's really where the focus is.
And India's story has been a very strong angle of your strategy all across the years, right? I mean, you've been focusing on Indian IPs, you've been focusing, your primary market for a very long time has been India, but now obviously with the Play Store and the App Store games, it's global, as well as the Middle East and Africa regions have picked up. Uh, what was the roadmap on the international strategy part?
Yeah, India remains an important core home market for us, but I see ourselves evolving very much into a global gaming company today, because we have businesses in the emerging markets, which include Middle East, Africa. Our original, telco businesses kind of make us reach out to all these markets. And a lot of our new businesses are also going into these markets. For example, esports, we are now in the Middle East
Hmm.
as well as in Africa. Paperboat actually is now the number 2 game for kids, young kids in that category in the US, just behind YouTube for kids.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And therefore, we already have a fairly good business now established in the US market, which we were never there before.
Sure.
Sportskeeda has a lot of fan following for WWE and esports now in the US, besides its users in India. So I'm finding that we are kind of evolving into now really a global company.
Mhm.
Uh, up till the last couple of years, I would say we were more a emerging markets game company. So India, Middle East, Africa really used to be what our hunting grounds were in that sense. But now it's gone more beyond that, I would say. But it's all evolving very fast.
Absolutely. And then I think it's a fantastic team that you have. I mean, I've seen and worked closely with you and your team over the years, earlier as a partner, as a developer partner, and then we did a startup together as well, which we were speaking about earlier in the day to day. Uh, So, uh, but amongst all of this, I mean, how do you kind of find the me time? I mean, you are a very busy man. I've kind of seen that at close quarters. How do you find the me time to kind of de-stress, unplug, and go back refresh? I mean, yes, the lockdown has been uh, sort of a break, but at the same time, business
Yeah.
shouldn't get impacted. So, what does Nitish Mittal Singh do in his personal life to de-stress?
Sure. I think honestly, I find myself less busy off lately in the
Mhm.
last couple of years, because we have, like you said, we have a strong management team at Nazara. We have Manish, who's our CEO. He's an industry veteran.
Yeah.
Again, being with 5, 6 years now with Nazara, he's really calling most of the shots.
Mhm.
But besides that, our Friends of Nazara network is working very well, because we've got close to 20 founders now working as part of our team,
Okay.
and that really strengthens our management, right? The bandwidth that we have. You
Mm-hmm.
mentioned in esports in Nodwin, we have Akshat,
Sure,
we have Siddharth now, who's joined in as CEO there.
sure.
We have Gautam. So in every company, you've got very strong founders and management teams, and that's why I think personally, uh, uh, they prefer that I stay out of their lives as much as possible, and therefore works for me as I have some more free time at hand. I think my own time, obviously, besides going after my young kids, as you know, I am fond of music. I'm part of a jazz band, so I play the sax. So I try and do some of that. Uh, I picked up this martial arts couple of years back called Krav Maga, which is a
Mhm.
Israeli used by the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces.
Right.
So I'm at level 2 now, certified, trying to get into level 3. So that's what I've been doing. I try to keep myself busy one way or the other.
And that's amazing. I mean, I know that you've been playing the saxophone for many years now. I've seen you perform a couple of times. But yeah, the Krav Maga thing sounds really interesting. You're also one of the trustees of the Dr. B.K. Goyal Heart Foundation. Uh, I mean, how do you manage your time between giving back to the society as well? I mean, there's three facets of you which kind of are coming through very clearly. One is Nitish Mitra Sen, the investor and the gaming entrepreneur. One is the family man, and then the social entrepreneur who's kind of giving back to the society. I mean,
Sure. So I think the Dr. Goyal Heart Foundation obviously is very close to my heart, pun intended. Given this, he was my grandfather, and also not only being my grandfather, but also, my key inspiration, as I would say. So I think his foundation is working very actively in terms of, supporting patients that cannot afford treatment, for heart disease, and trying to do whatever we can do over there. The foundation also runs the Dhanvantri Foundation, which gives away the most popular medical awards every year. So I think there's some effort that goes in there, but again, there's a strong team of doctors who are associated, and a very large team, because this is foundations established over many years, much before I came into it, right? So there's a strong machinery that's already in place over there. I think the other thing we've liked to support over the years, especially within our gaming space, is the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which looks after young kids, sick kids that are young.
Sure.
And we've actually introduced a concept called Play for Good, which is embedded in many of our games, where you can actually, for the time that you spend playing in those games, a certain percentage of revenues get donated to Make-A-Wish Foundation, etc. So we're trying small steps, nothing big, but trying to do small steps in whichever way we can.
Well, and that's amazing. And like I said, having known you for pretty much 2 decades now, it's really interesting to see all the different things you're doing. Unfortunately, we are just running out of time, but before we end this conversation, and then you and I can obviously keep catching up offline, what are the, so if you were to kind of give some sort of an advice to the gaming community per se, right? And you don't really, in fact, it is off late that I've seen you a lot more active in seminars and webinars and conferences. There was a time when you were very shy of attending any of these events and conferences. So it's good to have you as a part of all these platforms and share your insights and your experiences. But if you were to have 2 or 3 key points that you'd want to share with the people who would be listening into this webinar, or even somebody who's looking at the gaming space, either as an investor or even as a gaming entrepreneur, what would those 2-3 points be?
I think from an opportunity in India for an investor or an entrepreneur, I think there's a huge opportunity in the gaming space over the next few years. We're at an inflection point, and I would highly recommend everyone to have a look at it and see if there's a way they can be involved in the industry. The more people, the merrier it is, the faster we will grow. So it's always a good thing. I think message to any entrepreneurs is my own experiences. You can keep thinking in theory, but at some point of time, you need to hit the ground, move fast, learn, fail fast. I mean, it's all standard stuff that we all know. My personal experience over the years is keep persevering, and you'll keep figuring things out. And that's what we have done over such a long period of time.
And that is really interesting. And thank you, Nitish, for your time today to kind of share your insights and your experiences. We'll be keeping a close watch on how Nazara scales up and what's coming down the road, especially the AR, VR part, because that's something which I'm pretty interested in. I should talk to you offline on that. But it has been a pleasure having you as a part of this conversation, sharing your insights with the SummitFX audience. I really appreciate, and thank you so much for this conversation.
Likewise, Nana. Nice chatting with you. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you so much. Bye. Take care.